Henry de Vere Stacpoole was an Irish/British writer, ship doctor and poet. Born in Doon-Loughere, then called Kingstown, in 1863, the son of Doctor of Divinity and headmaster of Kingstown School William C. Stacpoole and Charlotte Augusta Montjoy Stacpoole. Suffering from chronic bronchitis, young Henry, his mother and three of his sisters moved to Nice, France for the sake of his health. Subsequently, Henry attended the Portallington boarding school, then Marlborough College in London, proceeded to study medicine at St. George's Hospital, University College, and finally at St. Mary's Hospital. He then spent many years travelling the globe as a ship doctor. His first book, the 1894 The Intended, seems to concern a pair of lookalikes, which is interesting given his return to the theme in Pierrot. Finally settling down in the English countryside after taking over another doctor's practice, in 1907 he married Margaret Robson, and a year later, finally a sedentary man after his early wanderings, he wrote his most famous novel, the often filmed The Blue Lagoon, the story of two cousins stranded on an uninhabited island before proceeding to bring up a child of their own on said island. Stacpoole moved to the Island of Wight in the 1920s. In 1938, following the death of his first wife, he married his wife's sister, Florence Robson. He died at Bonchurch, Isle of Wight in 1951. The two pieces reviewed today are short novellas with supernatural manifestations, inexplicable doubles, war and reincarnations, which both are quite shy of even 200 pages and thus require a rather short summary. Pierrot, Stacpoole's second published novel, was published in 1896 as the inaugural volume of John Lane's Pierrot Press, which would also include the following year's Death, the Knight and the Lady. Set in Paris during the Franco-Prussian War, the story begins in the Château de Maurevel. The supernatural similarity of the first and last of the de Maurevel family is pondered upon by an aged guide before we are transported back in time to August of 1870. We find here the young Louis de Maurevel, who is holed up at the family estate, resenting his isolation and his controlling father. An isolation so severe that it results in him sending letters addressed to himself. Isolated with the senile servant Jonior, one day he runs off to Paris. Here he buys himself a Pierrot suit and then meets up with a woman dressed as a Pierrot, Pierrot's female counterpart. He ends up kissing her after she has to spend a long time convincing him it's a good use of his time to do so, after which he takes her back to the chateau to spend the night, which is the start of a series of events which, aside from the ravages of war, also reveals his supernatural connection to another person who is in fact his earthly double. Death, the Knight and the Lady begins with the protagonist receiving a letter from his friend James Wilder. Wilder asks the protagonist to go to Yorkshire and carry out the rites for a certain dead man. Woman, Wilder suddenly and confusingly corrects himself. The narrator makes his way to Wilder's summer home in Ashford, where he finds a person upon his deathbed dressed as a cavalier. An old manservant meets him and points him to a book which is the diary of Beatrice Sinclair. Now Beatrice, though descendant of a proud and ancient family, was quite impoverished when she was found by James Sinclair and asked to come to his country house, but not before being given a sum of money for clothes which, to an utterly penniless lass, made her very suspicious about what it was that James Sinclair wanted her to do. What follows in this particular case is the story of Beatrice discovering her past life as Gerald Wilder, who slew a certain Beatrice Sinclair in his own day. She is sought out, it turns out, by James Wilder in order to settle an ancient family curse affecting both the Wilders and the Sinclairs. The quality of both of these supernatural novellas is very high. There's a lot of atmosphere and mood, and overall their slightly gothic flavour will make sense considering the fact they were written in the 1890s during the period of Fin-de-siecle, however it is you pronounce that. And overall it is a great shame that Stacpoole, if he's known it for anything at all, is just known for writing the original to the Blue Lagoon films and isn't known in the supernatural genre circle for these contributions.